Hello, my name's Fiona Basile and I'm a photojournalist from Australia. I thank you all for your presentations today. You've all touched upon wanting to prevent violence against women by men, and I'm just wanting to ask about, in this digital culture where young people particularly are spending a lot more time behind screens and on the internet, what is being done about pornography and the access to pornography? Because it's quite a big problem. And I know in Australia we're doing research and it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And particularly for young boys, where they're being groomed, or there are sites where you go onto games and in a couple of clicks you go onto pornography sites. So I'm just wondering what can be done about this, because it's integral to educating young boys and men. It's part of the problem, I think.
Anybody else at this stage? Or shall we let the ministers and the panelists take a stab at this issue? Media?
I can start. Well, thank you for First Minister from the Netherlands. It was a very good, sharp comment you made. And I totally agree with you on everything you said. Also that violence against women and girls also has an effect on, or is a side of the coin when it comes to the violence against LGBT, which is lesbian, gays and bi and yeah, transgender. Yeah. So this is because it has to do with accepting sexual identity, sexual norms, sexual roles, or gender roles, and that they can vary. They don't have to be like one standard. And we also see a lot of violence against these people in Norway, people with a different sexual orientation than the majority. When it comes to the media, you mentioned it, and Fiona Basile mentioned it when it comes to pornography. I think it's difficult to know the answer, but we're going to make young people in Norway, we're going to integrate them into making a campaign against rape in Norway. It's a part of an action plan, and the youngsters are going to be part of this plan. And I'm very curious about how they will take their chance to form this campaign. What will be their focus? Because I think we have to involve them and ask them what they feel is the problem. And I think that the internet and the media will be a crucial point. And also we should make those who own the medias and the journalists and the editors more responsible for what's happening in the media. And also the gender issue is crucial there, because most of those who own the medias, most of those who earn from the medias, and most of those who work as journalists, and most also of the sources that they use to interview, when they interview people, are men. So it's a man's world. So we have to address this as a gendered arena. And well, I would like to go back to Norway and see how can we approach this, but to do it while bringing the young people themselves into this debate, so that this isn't only a grown-up debate, it's from the young ones themselves.
Thank you, Minister Torkelsen. Next is Minister Sareen, I think.
Thank you. This is something about Fiona Basile, you mentioned that, and also Christine, about sexual violence and pornography. Actually, our side event yesterday was also about sexual violence and the portrayals of women in the media. And I don't have any solutions, but one thing I said yesterday was, and I was quite shocked about that, and that actually just shows that you have a point, and also you, Christian, that in Denmark, 97% of all boys between 12 and 14 years old have watched pornography, and 15% have started watching it when they were 9 years old. So actually we are facing, I think, a big challenge right now. The problem is we can't just shut it down, because this is cross-border also. And this is not, like I said yesterday, this is not and should not be not right now be a discussion about banning porn or not. But this is about how do we protect our boys, because I think this is a matter of protection also, because I really agree with Christian, because when they see that you can treat girls and women like that, of course, in my universe, I think that they'll take it with them in their relationships. And we also saw in Denmark that some girls, when you are talking about date violence, and yeah, they think that it's okay. They don't know their limits. They think it's okay that if their boyfriends just slap them once or twice. And for me, it's again that the limits are moving. This is a new kind of problem, and we discussed it last year also. And in the meantime, I've got 2 boys, 1 girl. I asked my eldest son, he's 13 now. Last year I asked him that if he had watched pornography. He said no. But when I checked the computer, it wasn't, in fact, the truth. But of course he would say no. I also said no when I was a kid. But so this is, I think that numbers 97% is really a high number, and we have to keep on bringing this subject next year and next year again, because right now I don't think we have any solutions beside parents helping their kids and schools engaging teachers and keep on talking about these kind of violence in pornography, and also clubs and so on, and teachers and pedagogues. So I think that's the solution right now.
Thank you very much, Minister. Ms. Askerisdottir.
Well, there has been a huge debate in Iceland about pornography and the effect of pornography, and the Minister of Interior has suggested that some kind of restrictions or a ban on pornography should be tried, and I can tell you that this is like entering a minefield. You know, there is so much opposition and outrage, because you know, and talk about that this is an attack on the freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and so on. But actually, I think that most people, they have no idea about the content of the pornographic world. And I think that when I'm talking about this, that we need to stop this somehow, that people think that we want to, you know, have a ban on Playboy or Hustler or, you know, something like that. But you know, this world is horrific, and we had a visit in Iceland from a specialist called American specialist called Gail Dines, and her lecture was broadcasted on the internet. See what the techniques can do. And you know, it was really horrifying. Among other things, she was showing us the so-called stepdaughters pages, where men are encouraged to abuse their stepdaughters. You know, the stepdaughters, they are just waiting for their stepfather, and so on. This is really horrifying. And the so-called gonzo porno, where 2-3 men are torturing women. So this is what it is about, and I'm sure that there are some ways, you know, like some kind of barriers. We need the telephone companies need to come into this you know, it must be possible somehow to close at least some of these sites. But I know it's difficult. I know it's very difficult.
The thing that you're talking about, yeah.
Thank you very much. Ms. Evald from Finland has asked for the floor.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. This is a very big problem, and I think in Finland we have still the culture of taboo to talk about the pornography in media. But as our minister told earlier, not today, but yesterday, I think he talked about that we are going to launch a campaign against sexual violence targeted at young people, making use of the social media. And young people have been preparing this campaign too, so we have engaged young people, a school class, to prepare this campaign so that it will shoot them and it will be a thing for them. So that's one thing we have done to prevent this, to have the young people in focus.
Next, Minister Arnholm.
Thank you very much, because to all of you, because I think this is a political discussion when it is at its best. We are discussing a true problem, and nobody has an answer. I think this is really the right way to go about this, because I really think it's a hard question, and it's good to hear all of you saying, I really don't know, but let's start talking about it. For me, it's also important to remember. When I was a kid, there was such a thing as pornography, and there has always been such a thing as hatred against women. Now these things have found a new channel. We must remember, before the internet, there was pornography, and Manu, I don't know if it was a slip of the tongue, but you also.
No, it's not a slip.
We must remember we have a new channel. I think the channel really has in a progressive way just made the problems much larger. But we mustn't focus only on the channel, because I think when we fight the channel, we are always bound to lose. We have to do, and I really like what you say about different campaigns, because we must always strengthen the good part of each and everybody. I mean, there will always be pornography, and you watched it, I watched it, my son does. We really must be confident that we can meet that at the same time as we really discuss where can we draw the lines. I'm really representing a country that has abolished buying sex, so I'm not against legislation when I really can see it has something to really contribute. But when it comes to close down websites, and there will always be problems. And I think in Sweden we have legislation that will make it where a lot of things that you can see on the internet is forbidden. Sometimes it's not a question of legislation, but about the resources you put to find it and to really trace it down. I would only like to just add one more Nordic good example of what you can do when it comes to media, because it's not only the dusky corners of internet, it's also in all media. That is where masculinity in a bad way is monitored or is shown. I think the public the thought or idea of public service, of having a commonly financed media, as we have in many Nordic countries, with television that is in the public service, and that competes with other commercialized channels, and then provides better equality, less and less gender unequal stuff. I think that I'm really happy that we have clinged on to the public service, and I think the public service in the media has a lot to contribute in this respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Minister Torkelsen would like to come in as well.
Thank you. It was just a thought, but we have done something in Norway when it comes to what was called child pornography. We don't call it that. It's not called child pornography in the laws or in the paragraphs. It's called display of child abuse, which it is. And just a question, but since you mentioned these forms of very violent pornography, one could think that one can do something of the same thing, you know, that you don't call it pornography. This is actually display of rape, it's display of torture, it's display of violence. But then also we have to take this debate about pornography. What is it? Yeah, you know, because we haven't been willing to set different, or we're treating pornography as the same thing, you know, and that is a problem. It might be a problem, but I think that we might start by calling it something else. And also, we have this button that you can, or if someone is coming into the sites where there is a display of child abuse, then there is an automatic warning. You're just put onto the police automatically. So that, and this site says, are you aware that you're actually now at the site where there is child abuse? And you can think about those kinds of means to address this specific problem too. Because of course, there will always be different kinds of channels to those who want this pornography. But I mean, the internet is so massive. It's really massive. And they're exposed to this from very early age, and it's very damaging.